Hey guys, Victor here, coming at you with another deck profile, and for today's video we're going to be doing an updated Tearlament deck. Now, before we actually get into the profile itself, I just want to briefly state, we will not be using the Fiendsmith engine, even though I do think it helps tremendously, whether it's providing you with a negate because you don't have access to Rukolos, or whether you're trying to like mill 5 off a Pilgrim Reaper. I just wanted to like build a deck without them for this specific variant, and even so, like even without the Fiendsmith engine, while I think it does help a lot, it's honestly still extremely playable even without it. So with that out of the way, let's jump straight into it. As always, we're going to be starting off with the monster lineup first, and we're of course going to be playing 3 Tearlaments Reinoheart. Now, because this is a pure Tearlament deck, you basically have to play the 3 Reinohearts. The entire deck quite literally runs through this card being able to resolve at some point during the game, whether you're normal or special summoning it, and then foolishing any tier monster besides itself, and just pretty much unlocking a good chunk of your extra deck. This card, you got to play 3 of it. Then to go with our 3 Reinohearts, we're playing 3 Tearlaments Kashtira on normal or special. It mills 3 cards, and then when it's into the graveyard by card effect, it's able to mill 2 more cards. So the potential mill 5 is always going to be greatly appreciated for a deck like this. And then for the 1 of tier monsters, we're playing the 1 Scheiren, the 1 Havnis, and the 1 Merrli. They're all limited, so we're just going to be able to play 1 of each, but these are the ones that allow you to fusion summon. They also mill cards depending on if you're able to meet the requirements, and they're just, we got to play them. Then for the other cards that just slightly help the tier engine out a little bit more, we're playing the 2 Beastking of the Swamps, not King of the Swamp, Beastking this time, as we're basically using this to be able to make cards like Bahamut Shark a lot more easily, as it is a level 4 water monster. And then this is also going to be like the only way that you're able to pretty much summon out your Tearlaments Rukolos, or potentially the Graph of Fusion if you decide to play that. But yeah, it's just a solid mill that allows you to pretty much play around and use a little bit more flexibly, I guess, compared to like the not original King of the Swamp, but the level 3 King of the Swamp, because this is technically the original one. But yeah, 2 Beastking, perfectly fine. And then for the final card that like directly supports the tier engine, we're playing the 1 Kashtira Fenrir, which we're not playing the field spell, and we're only playing the 1 Fenrir. It's basically just there to act as like somewhat of an extender, but it's not important to the deck as a whole. And whether you're drawing it or milling it, it's going to be greatly appreciated, because that just means you can like banish it for tier cash and all that. But yeah, 1 perfectly fine for this deck. And then for the other cards, we're going to be playing 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, literally only here so that we don't auto lose to any Mole Charmy shenanigans. Then even though we're not playing the Fiendsmith engine, we are going to be playing the Horus engine. So as a result, we're going to be playing the 3 Imsety Glory of Horus and the 1 Hapi Guidance of Horus. The other effects don't really matter outside of like special summoning itself, just because we're typically only going to be using this to summon out Zombie Vampire and then mill like 4 more cards and then bring out a monster that we milled. But there are certain times where you can justify just like special summoning these and then leaving them on the board. A major one would be like when you get hit by like a Mole Charmy Fulos, for example, and you don't really want to dive too deep into your extra deck. These cards, they're big bodies, and then their effects do somewhat come up, and they are like a little bit of a nuisance for your opponent to deal with. So if you just want to like slow roll it, these cards on the field plus like a Rukolos or something is like surprisingly threatening. So yeah, Horus engine, definitely going to be playing that one in this version. And then there are some other one-ofs that we will be playing. I opted to go with the Danger package, which is a very small one, the 1 Danger Nessie and the 1 Danger Mothman, mainly because they allow you to fusion summon a lot more easily, as well as being a dark aqua in the case of Nessie and just a dark monster in the case of Mothman, means that you can cheat out cards like Muddragon of the Swamp or Garura Wings of Resonant Life a little bit more easily, so you can flood the field and then potentially make like big Exceed or Link plays or Fusion plays or whatever. So yeah, they're perfectly fine in what they do. I just don't really feel like you need to rely on them too much for this deck. Then we're still going to be playing the 1 Helshaddoll Hollow. So when this card is sent to the graveyard, right, by card effect, you're able to mill cards equal to the different attributes you have. And that basically means that in most situations, you're going to have like a minimum at 1, but you could potentially go for like 3 to 5, depending like what your field looks like. I think the most common one that you're going to be able to hit, though, is usually going to be like 2, just because you play so many like darks and waters. But it's still perfectly fine. It's literally just there to mill. And by playing the Helshaddoll, we're able to have access to cards like Winda, which can in turn just like stun our opponent, because a lot of decks need to summon or special summon more than once in order to actually get their game plan going. Now you may be wondering, why do I play this over Shaddoll Beast? And the simple answer is I just like to mill more than I like to draw. So, you know, Helshaddoll is pretty solid. And then this also allows us to play through cards like Droll and Lockbird a lot more effectively, especially because Droll is seeing a lot of play currently. So, yeah, one Helshaddoll Hollow. It's an okay card. It's definitely like on the more cuttable side, but I just wanted to include it to have the Winda access. And then for the final card, we're playing the one Mudora, the Sword Oracle. You gotta have at least one shuffler in the main or somewhere in your deck, whether you're siding them or whatever. And I just prefer the Mudora because its stats are slightly better. And with that, that's the monster lineup. And now we can finally move on to the spell and trap portion. Now that we're on the spell and trap portion of the video, we're of course going to be starting off with the 3 Primeval Planet Perlereino. This card just does so much for the deck, as whether you're using it to search your deck for any tier monster, boost your tiers or your fusions by 500 attack, and just pop cards in general when a tier gets shuffled back. It really does do it all, so you got to play 3 of it. Then to accompany our 3 planet, the only other 3 that we're playing in the deck is going to be 3 Tearlaments Scream, as this card, whether you're going first or second, is just phenomenal at allowing you to mill 3 more cards. As if your opponent decides to summon, or if you summon and you control a face-up tier monster, you get to mill 3 cards. So just the consistency that this card offers you is invaluable, and it's great when you're able to pair it with cards like Reinoheart or Tearcast, just to be able to immediately like mill your deck and you know, be more likely to actually hit cards you want to fuse with. So 3 Scream, gotta play it. Then for the 2 ofs, because we're playing the Horus engine, you gotta play the 2 King Sarcophagus. Sometimes I feel like you can get away with just playing 1, but with the inclusion of cards like Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit in the main deck, I feel like you want to be a little bit more cautious and actually play the second one, because it is pretty likely where normally this deck wouldn't even really care about getting hit by Ghost Ogre, but if this card gets hit by Ghost Ogre, you're going to be in like a really rough time, because that means you lose access to a pretty pivotal part of your deck, being the Horus engine itself. So yeah, 2 King Sark. Then for the other 2 of, we're playing 2 Triple Tactics Talent, because there are hand traps everywhere. You know, it's just a really good card, whether you're stealing, ripping apart an opponent's hand, or just drawing more cards. So, yeah. For the 1 ofs, we're playing the 1 Foolish Burial Good to send any spell or trap to the grave, the 1 Foolish Burial to send any monster to the grave, and then the Tearlaments Grief to basically special summon a tier monster from our deck or graveyard. And then if we choose, it's basically like another Foolish Burial, as we're able to send 1 card or 1 monster on our side of the field to the grave that has either the same type or the same attributes. So, you know, all really, really good cards that pretty much allow you to play the game instantly. And then for the final spell, just the 1 Call by the Grave, so that if by some miracle we draw it, we don't auto lose to a Dimension Shifter, provided it's our turn. Then for the traps, we're just playing the 2 Sulliek with the 1 Trivikarma. Same standard stuff as always, nothing too crazy or out of the ordinary. If you want to play Meta Noise, by all means go for it. If you want to play Crime, I would not main it. I'd definitely recommend it for the side, just because that card is abysmal going first. I mean, abysmal going second. Obviously, it's great going first because it's a counter trap that negates something, but with the way that I play Tearlaments, I try not to have too many cards in hand, and if there are cards in my hand, it's typically going to be stuff that I want to use during my opponent's turn, like a Havnis or a Tearlaments Kashtira, but whatever. You know, like I said, this is all you really need. If you want to play like a Meta Noise, go for it. If you want to play a Crime, side it. And with that, that's the spell and trap lineup, and now we can finally move on to the extra deck. Now that we're on the extra deck, we're going to be starting off with the Exceed monsters first, and the first card we're going to be talking about is the only true Omni Negate that we play, being the 1 Toadally Awesome. You know, it's Toad, right? You got to play it in a modern Tearlament deck just because we have access to cards like Bahamut Shark very easily, and it's just a phenomenal card. It's an Aqua monster, so you can fuse it back to recycle it. It adds back water monsters from your graveyard to your hand. So you can add back like your Reinohearts or your tier caches, or maybe even itself, depending on like the board state. This card, you got to play it. Then to make that, you have to play the 1 Bahamut Shark. It just takes 2 level 4 water monsters, and even if you don't have like a Beastking, Reinoheart is pretty much always going to be guaranteed to make this in most situations, as you just send any tier monster, and then as long as you have like a dark monster that isn't Danger Nessie, you can fuse them into Mud Dragon of the Swamp, and then overlay, make this, and then, you know, just call it a day. Next, we're going to be playing 1 number 60 dugares, the Timeless. So this is basically just here as like a consistency piece, as we're basically always going to be using the effect to draw 2, discard 1, but there are certain situations where I would feel like Minerva, the Exalted Lightsworn, is actually better than a card like Dugares, just because, for starters, with everyone playing Droll, as I've mentioned before, Minerva doesn't get hurt by that, right? We just summon Minerva, mill 3, and if we hit anything good, great. If not, oh well. But if you don't get hit by Droll, this card is, I guess, somewhat better because you're able to draw 2 then discard a card. So it helps you get rid of bricks like Trivikarma that you will be drawing like at some point, or getting rid of cards that may otherwise just you literally just don't want to see, right? Cards like Havnis that don't do anything in your hand during your turn, or like I said previously, Trivikarma. Sometimes you want to get rid of like a shuffler or something, and you know, dugares is there to do that for you. Then we're playing the 1 Time Thief Free Door. If you need a fusion summon with 2 level 4s, this is basically your go-to guy. And then it's also great for taking key resources from your opponent, whether spells, traps, or monsters. And then depending on what you take, it gets like bonus effects. Spells are obviously my favorite because it allows you to draw a little bit deeper into your deck. But traps, if you're able to hit them, also can just sometimes just straight up end the game right there, as a trap will allow you to spin a face-up card that your opponent controls back to the top of the deck, so it's like a wing blast basically. And then for the monster effect, you detach a monster for effect, and then it banishes itself until the end of the turn, and that's the one that you use when you want a fusion summon. And then for the final Exceed monster, we're playing the 1 Zombie Vampire to take advantage of our Horus engine. You just attach a material, mill 4 from both players' decks, so it gives you knowledge about what your opponent's playing, and then you get to special summon one of the monsters that you milled from either side. So, you know, just a good generic card that allows you to get your engine going. And that's it for the Exceeds. And then for the links, we're playing the 1 IP Masquerena, which makes the SP Little Knight, but we're also going to be playing the Spright Sprind in this case, as there are certain times where you will be justified in making the Sprind over the SP Little Knight in order to have access to cards like Helshaddoll more easily. And, you know, it really is like a case-by-case basis, but having that flexibility is pretty nice. And then there are also certain times during your turn, right, where you'll go for the Bahamut shark play and then make the Toad, but you won't even need the negate. So you just go ahead and then you link your Toad and the Bahamut into this to send Merrli, and then Toad's effect will activate to get back like a resource or whatever, and things can snowball pretty quickly depending on how you opt to use this card. So yeah, 1 Spright Sprind, perfectly fine. And then for the final link monster, I just decided to throw in Underworld Goddess of the Closed World just because this deck does have a fairly difficult time dealing with like big towers like monsters, so just having something built in that can allow us to break our opponent's board a little bit more easily is appreciated. And that's it for the links. And then for the fusions, we're playing the 1 Helshaddoll Winda to take advantage of our Helshaddoll Hollow. We're playing the Mud Dragon of the Swamp, Guru Wings of Resonant Life, and Predaplant Dracostapelia, all really good generic fusions that are made pretty easily at some point by this deck. And then for the tier fusions, we're playing the 1 Tearlaments Reinoheart and then the 1 Tearlaments Heart. And with that, that's the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!